Hey, here we go from the national headquarters of RT America and our nation's capital. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. Remember the Maine? Do you remember the Maine? Let me help you. So back in 1898, on February 15th, late at night, a U.S. Navy ship blew up, and it was called the Maine. The U.S. media, actually the New York World and the New York Journal, owned by Randolph Hearst and his competitor, Joseph Pulitzer, immediately ran screaming headlines about how the ship was attacked by the Spanish. By golly, look at it there. Pretty ship, right? And see the headline there? Americans were incensed. We declared war. And that is how the Spanish-American War began. It's the war that ended Spain's empire and began the American empire. And it was done with that headline. See it right there? Remember the Maine. Boy, it got everybody all jacked up all over the country like nothing you've ever seen. Now, let's go to 1964. It's early October. The Pentagon, in the form of Defense Secretary Robert McNamara, announces that there's been an attack in a place called the Gulf of Tonkin. Heard of that? He says that for a second time in days, North Vietnamese torpedoes have been fired at, and they fired at an American destroyer. That's him right there, Bob McNamara. Hair slicked back, had a really cool look back then. He went on to say that the destroyer was simply there on a routine patrol when it was maliciously attacked by the North Vietnamese. That was the story. Again, screaming headlines. Here's what the New York Times reported at the time. In fact, here's the statement right after Johnson came out, the president, LBJ. President Johnson has ordered retaliation or retaliatory action against gunboats and certain supporting facilities in North Vietnam after renewed attacks, not alleged renewed attacks against American destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. That's the actual headline that day in the New York Times. We pulled it out for you. Not long after that, the Vietnam War was on, sparked by that incident and the media coverage that surrounded it, right? Now let's go back. Let's go back a little bit, look at both of these incidents, how they actually turned out. Okay, the one that sparked the Spanish-American War, the Maine, and our legacy as a war state, and the other one, the one that sparked the Vietnamese War and our legacy as a military-industrial war economy. All right, let's dive a little deeper into both of those. Okay, remember the Maine? It was proven after the war that the Maine was not attacked by the Spanish. Not attacked by the Spanish. Remember, that was the reason, right, that we went to war with the Spanish. The explosion was most likely caused as an accident, although there are some people who still say it was possibly sabotaged by some Cubans that may have been hired to make it look like an attack by the Spanish. Whichever, it wasn't an attack by the Spanish. In other words, the pretense for America's first modern war was fake. And so, as it turns out, was the Gulf of Tonkin incident, when President Johnson went on national television to announce airstrikes against North Vietnam. He either knew or should have known that the Gulf of Tonkin attacks by the North Vietnamese, it was a lie, a fabrication, which was used as a pretense for a war that killed more than 2 million Vietnamese and 50,000 American soldiers. These are now the facts, folks. Two bogus stories dished by a compliant media about attacks that didn't happen, that changed the course of history for our country, obviously, if not in many ways the entire world. So why am I talking about these two stories today? What's Rick Sanchez gone nuts again? Why is he talking about this? What's this got to do with today? What's this got to do with the news? The answer when we come back on The News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it is time to do news again. I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.